Well, we said we had an exciting weekend coming up on the first episode, and we were not wrong. 6 WSL games, 15 goals, 30 cards. Let's try and just recap that all in a short, sharp, snappy little episode. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Right, firstly, Sophie, as promised, we need to get results on the board. We have got Man United versus Arsenal ended 2-2. Brighton lost 2-0 to West Ham. Man City won, Chelsea won. Tottenham 3, Bristol 1. Leicester 1, Everton 0. And Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0. So the table is currently topped by Liverpool, followed by Leicester, and then Man City, Man United, Chelsea, all on 4 points below them. Bristol, Villa and Everton are propping up the bottom, 0 points after 2 games. A bit of a crazy weekend.
Just a bit mad. It was very entertaining all the way through from Friday night. I do love a Friday night fixture to the end. It was pretty entertaining. So,
Maybe not having to drive up to Lee, though.
Yeah, that was a bit of a pain.
That's like a full day. You leave London at 12:30, got to Lee at like 6:15 in the end. Had to stop halfway up for a couple of press conferences, but long old trek, but totally worth it. And of course, we do have the biggest talking point of the weekend, which we're going to have to keep short. We will get to that. But if we look at Manchester United, Arsenal, 2-2, a much changed Arsenal, probably the biggest talking point around that match were the changes, and of course that he swapped out Zinsberger for D'Angelo. Yeah,
I think some really interesting changes. I kind of got what he was trying to do, although I think it surprised everyone. I didn't think when I saw Victoria Pelova named on the team sheet that she would be that deep lying in midfielder. And Kim Little played basically out on the left. Well, she came in central sometimes, but she was kind of covering that left side of the midfield area. It was really interesting to see the changes. I think he decided he needed to shake things up after that loss to Liverpool. It's not often that you see the likes of Katie McCabe, Caitlin Ford, Frida Mornham on the bench. He decided that there needed to be a change. The goalkeeping situation is an interesting one. Yes, I think probably Zinsberger could have done better for that goal against Liverpool. Matt Beard has said very clearly that they targeted that because she doesn't like the ball coming across her box. So Liverpool were
very interesting
working on trying to get the ball across the box because Zinsberger doesn't particularly like that. So Liverpool had obviously found a weakness in Arsenal, in Zinsberger, but I'm not sure it really warranted being dropped as such. But then there's also the thing about him wanting to do goalkeepers 50-50.
Do you think that's true? Do you think he's just saying that because of the fact that he made a somewhat controversial decision to change his goalkeeper after one game and bring in a goalkeeper who hadn't had many minutes in one of the biggest fixtures?
It's not the first time I've heard that that's his idea for his goalkeepers, okay. But I'm also not too sure I particularly like it. I think you have a number one goalkeeper and that's your number one goalkeeper. And yes, the other goalkeepers have a chance if they perform. If like your number one is doing really, really badly and they drop out, then obviously the number two has to come in and perform. But I don't think, unless there's an absolute howler, really you drop.
Yeah, I imagine it's quite difficult developing those relationships as a goalkeeper if you're constantly on the bench, back in the pitch, on the bench, back in the pitch. So we'll see what he does in the next game, whether he sticks with D'Angelo. I do think it's important to do that for a keeper's confidence to not drop her after that, but we shall see. Right, I'm going to give you a difficult question. 3 words to describe that game.
Tense. Nerve-wracking, and I think very, very entertaining, especially...
I feel like that was 12 words, but I'll let you away with it. Go on.
Yeah, so tense, nerve-wracking, sort of the same, and entertaining. Okay. I think that last half an hour, 45 minutes, I think the whole game was actually pretty bloody good from both teams, so... I could have watched it. I think I tweeted at the end that I could have watched another 90 minutes of it because it was that entertaining. It was stressful, but it was entertaining.
Stressful for both sides. It just felt like, oh God, for both sides.
I just because I can't really school my emotions in the press box, and the ball went down Arsenal brought the ball forward. I think they had it wasn't when Alessia Russo hit the bar.
Oh.
And I had my head in my hands, and then I think it was Mallard went down the other end and just sent a shot wide. My head in my hands. I was just like living everything, every move that game. I was just living.
Ultimately, a draw, fair result.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and props, I think, to Russo as well. A tough place to come back, having just left Manchester United last season, of course. And, difficult circumstances. Booed every time she touched the ball. And I do think she was unlucky not to get a goal because she looked very, very bright.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that fixture definitely got the heart rate up for then what ended up just being an exciting weekend of football.
I think it was just a pure example of two heavyweights going head to head.
That old cliche,
taking,
knocks out of each other.
And, yes, as you say, a fair result, I think, in the end. But yeah, it was absolutely fascinating.
And we did then go to Sheffield on Saturday, but we will get to that because we're going to go to another heavyweight bout, and arguably the biggest talking point came from this game, where everyone's going to be talking about this now for the next week. But Man City won, Chelsea won. We do have to keep this short because it is a short podcast. So Sophie, how would you sum up this game for someone maybe who didn't get a chance to watch it or hear about it?
Oof. So I was actually really disappointed in Chelsea. I don't think they offered that much, and especially after Man City went down to 10.
Do you feel like you're really giving
9. Someone
who hasn't seen it?
I think Manchester City started really well.
Yes.
They had chances. They were forward thinking. Chelsea looked a bit disjointed. Mm-hmm. Emma Hayes had also made some changes, which did surprise me as well. But yeah, I thought Manchester City started the better. You can tell they're so full of confidence at home. I think after yesterday, their run at home is now 20 unbeaten. That's quite incredible in the WSL because it's such a tough league. But yeah, so I think they started well. They got their goal quite early. Beautiful goal, big deflection, but beautiful goal. But it was all about Chloe Kelly and the way that she is. And I think they look pretty confident and comfortable. And then that double yellow for Alex Greenwood just changed everything and obviously put them on the back foot. But I did think that the way that they reacted to it, a lot of teams would probably have banked up if they're going down to 10. And then when obviously Lauren Henk got a second yellow as well, so they go down to 9. And they were pushing forward and trying to get a goal. I think Bunny Shaw had Ruby Mace set up Bunny Shaw in like the last
that was incredible
5 minutes. And like they had chances to win, like to secure their game. So I think they can be really, really proud of the way that they performed and dug in deep when all of the chips were against them.
I think, as Gareth Taylor said, if you looked at that kind of scoreline and the number of cards given, you would have thought it was a really feisty, aggressive game, and it wasn't. We've now got these kind of new rules, or referees are clamping down across football on dissent and tackles, it seems, of any kind, and time wasting. And, I think it's a bit naive to think that Man City were trying to time waste against Chelsea in the 38th minute. It just... Looking at it, I don't think anyone, maybe except for Chelsea fans, think that should have been a second yellow card for Alex Greenwood. We see it a lot in, the attacking half of a match where there might be a free kick and you've got 3 players over the ball and they're discussing what they're going to do and they're waiting for the wall to be put together and they're, and there's all this kind of faff around a free kick. And, Alex Greenwood, everyone keeps bandying around this 26-second thing, and actually she didn't get on the ball until 5-6 seconds after the free. And she was quite clearly looking for options. She was letting her team get up the pitch. She went to go across, and I think it was Mia Fischel who stepped forward, but that option was out. So, she just took a little bit of time, and with no real kind of warning, suddenly she was booked for time wasting.
I think you can generally tell the difference between time wasting and common sense, or like trying to figure things out. And that, for me, as soon as I saw it, I was like, she's just trying to figure out what to do. She's not trying to delay the play. She's just, yes, you calm things down, but you got to think about where you're going to place the ball, otherwise you're going to send it straight into the path of the opposition. And I think refereeing, I understand why they want to cut down on time wasting, because it has got excessive in the game, and I understand why they want to cut down on dissent, because it has got excessive in the game.
Referees should be protected.
You also have referees are all about using their common sense as well and their jurisdiction. And the thing is, there's no time frame for time wasting or what time.
There's no number.
It's up to the discretion of the person in the middle of the field to decide what is time wasting, what isn't, and what constitutes it. And I think if you've just booked someone for which was a yellow card, Alex Greenwood went in. it was a yellow card. I don't think you then, in that circumstance, can then pull out a yellow card straight away without any warning. And I think you're making it, that makes it about the official in the middle, the game about the official in the middle, rather than what's happening on the pitch.
Yeah, I think Alex Greenwood, I think maybe it was booked within 20 minutes, I think it was. It was Niamh Charles, I think it was booked just before her. But there just seemed to be, I appreciate and I agree with protecting the refs from dissent, but it just seemed like you couldn't even look at her or ask a question. And I think there should be, you should be allowed to communicate with the referee. It happened in the West Ham game where a player got booked, and I think she turned around and said something like, "What, ref?" and then got booked for that. So 30 cards across the weekend is absolutely crazy, and 4 red cards in 2 weekends across mad. 2 weekends is mad. And the thing is, look, maybe it's going to be looked at and maybe it's going to be reviewed going forward, but these decisions can have really big impact, you know, and we could come down to the end of the season and could be 1 or 2 points or a goal that could decide something. So,
but it's about being reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the spectacle, football is about the fans, and they pay to get into a game, to watch a game of football. And football is always better with 11v11. So I think in the past there's always been this view that referees will try to keep 11 against 11 on the pitch. That didn't seem the feeling yesterday. And I was when they all went off at half time, I pretty much said to myself as I was watching, I think there's going to be another red card in this. Whoever it was going to be, whether it was going to be Lauren Hemp or Jill Roord or someone else was going to get sent off that field because
a Man City player, probably.
Yeah, because of the sort of precedent that had been set in that first half.
Yeah, Emma Hayes talked about consistency pre-match and post-match with referees, and I just don't think there has been consistency. You know, we were looking at some games there today. We were watching the Arsenal game back, and, you know, there's players taking over, 15, 16, 17 seconds to take a free, just goalkeepers taking ages. There wasn't consistency across decisions. Ashley Lawrence taking out Lauren Hemp should have been a yellow card. We saw other fouls in other games that didn't get booked, so if we are talking about consistency, you have to be kind of a bit, I don't know. I appreciate that Chelsea were happy that they got the draw, but realistically I think everyone could see that kind of got out of hand. Anyway, I don't think we kept that particularly short, but it's very hard to do that quickly. We were both then, I was at Brighton versus West Ham, you were at Tottenham versus Bristol City, our respective games. I think they were both quite fun ones to attend. I really enjoyed Brighton West Ham. There was some serious intensity in that match from the get-go. Started off fast, high tempo, good football, end to end at times. I thought West Ham started really well on the front foot. Brighton then grew back into the game. Kirsty Smith got her first goal for West Ham. Brighton really unlucky not to get a goal at the end of the first half. And it was just so much energy, and it was just really nice to see West Ham playing that kind of football that we know they can play. That kind of new look West Ham under Skinner looks quite exciting. And I spoke to Hawa Sissoko afterwards, and she seems to really be enjoying her football under Rhiannon Skinner and the group of players there as well, which was really nice to see. Plenty for Brighton to work on. They had a lot of set pieces, dead balls, corners, and nothing really came of them, so they're creating those opportunities, but they're not getting a lot out of them. I think that's something they're going to need to work on, and they need to improve their home form as well. Talk us through Spurs Bristol.
I think Spurs fans should be really excited this season. I think the game against Chelsea showed it as well, but they are really thinking about their attacking football. Robert Wilhelm has got playing some really aggressive, high, fast intensity, forward-thinking football. There's a lot of their moves come down the right side at the moment, but they have opportunities all over the pitch. Two of the 3 goals were fantastic. Olga Artanen's was brilliant, and it was a brilliant build-up. Yeah, one of them.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Kaylin Marquis.
Couple of howlers this weekend.
Yeah, she just sent it straight into Martha Thomas's path. So that was one to forget, but the other 2 were absolutely fantastic, and yeah, they put the game to bed by half time pretty much. And Robert was very happy after the game. When I spoke to him, he was really impressed with the way that his side had taken on board the foundations that they built in that Chelsea game. They created 16 chances yesterday, only 6 on target, so that would be one to fix for him. But he was a little bit disappointed with the way they dropped off in the second half. But I think it's also understandable when you're 3-0 up.
Yeah.
And I think Bristol have work to do. Fair play to them. They weren't scared about going forward, and they did have their chances as well. I think they created like 12, 13 chances.
Okay.
And there was a really good one for Carrie Jones that I don't know how she put it over the bar. She was literally 8 yards out. But like, so they are creating themselves, but they just need to build up that bank of experience, I think, to make it count and become clinical in those final thirds and cut out the mistakes, because 2 of Tottenham's goals came in 4 minutes.
Yeah, and I think the problem is with the WSL is you just don't really have time to make mistakes. You know, there's no time to find your feet. You have to hit the ground running. Elsewhere, Leicester went and beat Everton 1-0. Everton did have a penalty saved in the first half. Super work from Leipzig in goal. She saved the penalty and then saved the follow-up. So that was pretty incredible.
She's a keeper.
Oh, but 0-0 for a good chunk of the game. Peterman scoring in the 69th minute. We're seeing more attacking football from Leicester so far this season, which is very exciting, and it's something Willie Kirk had promised. I think Everton may be needing to start games better, because I think this was another game that they grew into, a bit like the game against Brighton. So I'm sure that's something Brian Sorensen will be looking to improve, is starting the games better. And then, of course, we had final game of the weekend, late kickoff, nice one to enjoy on a Sunday evening, that we both managed to get back for. Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0, Beardy versus Wardy. Both very good managers, but Matt seemed to come out on top. You have a lot of praise for him, don't you?
I do. I think he's pretty underrated. Maybe not within football circle, not within the football, the players or the coaching world, and people who've been around the game for a long time. But I think he's probably a bit underrated in the wider football world. He is an absolutely top coach tactically, and I think the way that he gets his players playing for him. And you can see that in the first 2 games of the season, the way that they nullified Aston Villa yesterday and the threats. Yes, Aston Villa are without Kenza Dali and Kirsty Hansen, and that massively impacted them. But the way that he worked out how to basically pin them back, and they didn't really have any real chance of proper note. I don't think they had a couple of good ones. Knobs was denied by Cavisto.
Unreal save on the line of her head.
But
really knocked her into next week.
It wasn't like there was a barrage of attack and goal. They managed to nullify it, and I thought Jenna Clark was ridiculous in defence. And I mean, I can't stop saying it. Every time I see her on TV, I'm like, she's a tree.
She's so tall.
She's so tall.
That defence, though, from Liverpool, their back 3 and their wing backs have been fantastic. So solid at the back, but the wing backs give them so much attacking threat. Taylor Hines and Emma Coy-Visto in particular have been excellent. So I've been super impressed with them, and that seems to be working really, really well for Matt Beard and his side. So it's very exciting, and they're currently in the top 3, which is great. So next week we have got some Conti Cup fixtures during the week. And next weekend then Chelsea versus West Ham for a Saturday evening fixture. Manchester United take on Leicester, Man City take on Bristol, Arsenal take on Aston Villa at the Emirates. That will be tasty. Brighton take on Spurs, and Liverpool take on Everton at Anfield. And
it's gonna be
Brighton
big.
are at the Amex as well, so a couple of main stadia next weekend. But Liverpool-Everton, that'll be a great game. I think Matt Beard will be relishing, and they will want to make sure what happened last season when they got battered won't happen again. So that could be a very exciting fixture. Elsewhere, we also had Championship. We went down across to Sheffield. Beautiful drive. Quite an emotional game. It was their opportunity to kind of commemorate Maddie Cusack's life. And there was a lovely video beforehand. The fans all clapped on 8 minutes, which was her number. And Sheffield went down 1-0 and came back to win 3-0 against London City Lionesses. So a really impressive performance from them. Roundup of the Championship this weekend. Once again, a bit mad.
Yeah, as always. I think that was Sheffield's only second win of the season. So I think to get it in those circumstances and coming from behind just shows the character of that team and how much they would, playing for themselves but also for Maddie as well. Elsewhere, quite a lot happened. So Southampton have gone back top of the table with a 2-0 victory. They played with 10 players from the 48th minute onwards. Incredible. So they managed to get that over the line. They're back on top on goal difference. And then you've got Blackburn and Sunderland, I think. But Blackburn suffered their first, a defeat against Palace. It wasn't their first defeat.
But 4-0 as well, though.
But they got pretty comfortably beaten by Crystal Palace, who remain unbeaten. Sunderland got a draw with Birmingham. Birmingham fought back in that one, but Sunderland also remain unbeaten. Reading got their second win of the season against Lewis, who seemed to be struggling a little bit. But Reading, Tia Prima scored for them. And then Charlton scored I think it was a 100th minute penalty against Durham to earn a point at home. So,
well,
dramatic.
That's another thing we're getting this season. It's lots of extra time. We're getting so much extra football already. So where will we be next weekend? We need to figure that out, because I never know whether I'm coming or going. But what I do know is that on Tuesday, tomorrow, we will be going up to Lee Village, Sports Village again, to see how Manchester United get on against PSG in the Champions League, which will be a really exciting fixture. So we will be doing that.
And then Chelsea West Ham.
West Ham. Well, we've got don't forget a Conti Cup game in the middle of the week as well.
I think we're still deciding.
Football. And then next week we'll be talking to you about the second leg of the Champions League, because we will be going to Paris, hopefully not bringing back any bed bugs and just bringing back a win for Manchester United, fingers crossed. So that's another wrap on a very exciting weekend, and I think maybe this time on Extra Time with Girls on the Ball we might call in a sub. What do you reckon?
I think so.
Let's do it. Okay, so our very first sub on Extra Time, bringing on to Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. You're going to have to come back out of retirement for a little bit. Jodie Taylor, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, firstly, we've just done a really quick run through of the WSL fixtures, the WSL results, everything that's gone on this weekend. And we've just had another kind of mad weekend of results and various things to chat about. What have you made of the first two weekends?
Yeah, it's been an exciting first start to the WSL. I love that it's more competitive. It seems like the league's going to be more competitive this year. You've seen Liverpool have started like a house on fire. Leicester are doing well as well, which is great. I think that's in the past in the WSL, there's been a big gap from the top 4 teams to the bottom. So it's nice to see the rest of the teams catching up, because it just makes for a better game of football to watch, and for the fans it's way more entertaining. So I think it's been a good start. Controversial start as well, but a good start.
What have you made? We had VAR last weekend, and now we've got dishing out cards for everything this weekend. What have you made of it?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They're obviously cracking down on dissent and cracking down on time wasting, and talk about setting the standard for the rest of the season. It's been crazy. I think Alex Greenwood's second yellow was a little harsh for the time wasting. But again, if they're setting the standard, and I think as players you kind of need to figure out what you can and can't get away with. And yeah, it was a wild game, wasn't it? But it'll be interesting now to see how much people are time wasting the dissent. I think it's a huge respect thing with the dissent. So again, I think you always push the limits as a player, but it's about knowing what you can and can't do. Again, I'm not there. I'm right in the middle of it to know exactly what players have been privy to. Have they been warned about time wasting? How long is considered time wasting? So I don't know any of that, but I'm sure anyone who was involved in the game or watching the game will probably learn quite quickly.
Yeah, I think the dissent is one thing, isn't it? That's like, as you say, it's a respect thing, and it's about learning that behaviour. But like, for me, when it's at the discretion of the person in the middle refereeing the game, in terms of the time wasting, there isn't a set time that is time wasting. It's up to them, and that's where I think where you have those kind of murky areas where it can be up to the interpretation of the fans or the players and the referee about how to take those decisions, and that's why you get the controversy as kind of what happened at the weekend, because I think as we all want 11 against 11 on the pitch, right? That's what you want when you watch football. So when it's less sort of stringent about what it actually time wasting is, that makes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, do you really think Man City are time wasting at 38 minutes, 1-0 up to Chelsea? It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing we'd expect.
She took a bit longer than potentially normal. What was the 37th minute, something like that. Maybe a little different if it's later on in the game. But again, it is a grey area, and it's probably something that needs to get cleared up, because I think now you're going to start seeing people probably are on the side of caution and rushing. Everything's going to be a fast free kick. Goalkeepers now, are going to, I think historically, goalkeepers are notoriously known for taking a long time. to get the ball out of the hands, and that's not going to happen now. So I think we'll see a little bit of fear. So I'm interested to kind of see how that all unfolds. But yeah, it was a statement, to say the least, from the referee this weekend.
It really was. I feel like we're going to see less time wasting on the ball and more goalkeepers having tactical injuries, which has definitely been growing in the game for sure. Let's talk about Arsenal's start. Given that's where you were, what have you made of their signings and how they've started?
Yeah, I think they've made some great signings in the summer, obviously, with Russo being the main player that they've signed, Ilestedt, Cadena. I think Lacasse has been a great signing too, kind of like a under the radar player that they've signed who started well. She scored an excellent goal this weekend. What a brilliant finish that was. All she needs is half a yard. It was a brilliant goal and a crucial goal that they needed. It's tough. It's a real challenge when it's a World Cup year. You've brought in new players, a rushed pre-season with the preliminary rounds of the Champions League. I think it's going against Arsenal at the minute, but it's to be expected. I think when you see that, it's going to take a bit of time, I think, for them to gel. I think that's what we're starting to see. They've got a world-class squad. Players are healthier now, and it's trying to figure out formation, who gels well, who you partner with each other. I think they're still trying to figure that out. There's just been no time at all for pre-season, and it's a shame you kind of start to see these teething problems at the beginning of the season, which is what you don't want. That's what your pre-season's there for. But it is what it is, isn't it? And, I think they did well to get a point out of the game this weekend at United away. So hopefully they just keep building. But yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah, it felt like a must not lose for Arsenal. Yeah. So the fact that they managed to get that point, even if it was at the death, it was really, really important for them. Even if I know they're still down the table, but just looking forward and building into the games, they've got, I think, Villa next week.
And they're still in touching distance of, the likes of Chelsea and Man United, and that they're still kind of in touching distance, whereas a loss potentially could have looked that little bit bigger and like the gap kind of a little bit wider. Do you miss it? Do you watch these highlights and miss it?
Yeah, of course. I think, say I'm newly retired, and I think regardless if I retired now or hung on for another few years, I'm going to feel the same way. I feel like I've had a slow exit out of playing in terms of, I think you see some players who are really at the top of the game and they've just been with the national team and they've won a World Cup, with the national team playing, and then they just kind of like cut it short completely. I think that would be a bit of an abrupt ending for me. I think I've had a bit of a slower exit out of it. I haven't been with the national team for a few years. Minutes were kind of decreasing as my career went on. So slowly starting to feel ready and knowing it was probably the right time. But yeah, of course I miss it. I'm watching and, you think, oh, could I still play at this level? But no, it's just a passion, isn't it? And it's all I've known. So, but no, I feel all right. I do feel okay, but I felt this way probably the last 18 months of my career anyway. So like I said, it's been a nice slow exit out of playing.
A big thank you to Jodie Taylor for joining us today. We will have a full interview with her out on Wednesday. See you soon.